When I first got into training or trying to get big, I remember my father telling me, we're just not big people, that's not how we're built. And then I remember one day my brother flexing his arm at the park and he had like a little golf ball size bicep, and I thought, that's not me. And I was skinny, I had gyno just from puberty, and I thought, it's time to pack on some muscle. So today I wanted to go over why I got into this, why I started bodybuilding, why I started training. So just going into the backstory, I grew up in a normal home. I had loving parents, a twin brother, like I just mentioned, and there was constant competition between us. So you can imagine when I saw that golf ball sized bicep, I was like, yeah, no, there's no way this guy is going to be bigger than me. And I've always been the bigger brother. I was always taller. And so when I saw that, I was like, no, I'm not going to be the skinnier brother. When he showed me that, I just remember looking at my arms and thinking, fuck, I'm skinny, man. And obviously my dad had been telling me that's not how we're built. So I already had this self-doubt that I couldn't be someone who was big. I was a skinny person. I was tall, but I was skinny. And I wanted to change that, but I had no idea how to even start. I just remember me and my brother, we had one dumbbell in the house. It was literally like, it was one of those dumbbells it's like a metal bar and it's got the screws on the end. And you just put the plates on. I think we had like a 2.5 on each side or something like that. So it was somewhere between 5 to 10 kilos. So you can imagine, like, I was quite weak trying to do lateral raises. It was really heavy. I only had one weight selection to do, just following like random YouTube workouts. And back then bodybuilding.com was quite a big thing. I do remember my dad finding me a program though on bodybuilding.com, and it was like some Croatian teenage bodybuilder or something like that. It was super random. And then obviously learning about eating a calorie surplus. I didn't even concern myself with macros or anything like that. I just ate calories, just focused on calories only. I actually didn't really have any clue about macros. Like, I knew you had to eat protein. So obviously protein naturally, when you follow things in bodybuilding or you watch movies, you learn about protein intake. And obviously in that first year or two, it's just complete newbie gains. Like, you can just eating enough is enough to grow in that time. You probably don't even have to eat much. In the beginning, just the stimulus of lifting the dumbbell was plenty of stimulus for me to be able to grow in the beginning. So when I was 16, I remember my mum got me a membership to the local commercial gym. It was called Jet's Gym. They're still around. They're pretty very average equipment and things like that. But it was better than what I was doing at home with just a dumbbell and like a cross trainer thing that we had. And pretty much from there, that's where it all really started. And I really fell in love with the process of training. And that's where I was following the Croatian teenage bodybuilder's plan. Started learning about structure and splits and things like that. This kid had a split that he used. And I was like, oh, so you started figuring out how to put a split in place and things like that. And this is over 10 years ago now. But I still didn't really understand proper true structure in terms of nutrition, training, all these things. I trained hard, but not very smart. And somewhere around that time, I actually discovered pumping iron, just being into the gym and things like that. I was looking for things to watch, and you'd see clips of Arnold, and obviously everyone knows Arnold, he's a legend. And then when I watched that and seeing Arnold and Franco and all those guys and seeing them live that lifestyle, adhering to a tight diet, training, it just completely, captured my imagination. Like, I was just like, I want to be Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I truly believed that just eating and training hard, that like my ceiling was like endless. I didn't even know about steroids or any of that shit. Didn't care about it. All I wanted to do was just train, eat like a bodybuilder, do all those things. I just sort of realized it's not really about the fun side of it. There's a mastery that needs to happen as well. There's all these different elements: nutrition, training, recovery, all these different things that even to this day I'm still learning about. And obviously through that process, realizing that there's levels to this shit. I hadn't mastered those. I didn't have that yet. I hadn't learned those things just yet. But that basically encouraged me to go out there, and I was just hungry for knowledge. I wanted to find out as much as I could. I watched whoever I could on YouTube, anyone who was considered sort of an expert. Got Arnold's Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding, podcasts, took courses in recent years, And still to this day, I'm constantly trying to educate myself on the latest information, the latest developments, the latest discoveries, and just really trying to critically think about the process of bodybuilding and not just following things blindly, but learning for yourself. And over that time, learning training, nutrition, recovery, having it all aligned, I put on about 30 kilos of lean muscle, which I started at around 70 kilos. I'm 105 kilos now, visible abs, all that. So you Americans, that's around 60 something pounds of muscle in just over 11 years, which is not huge, but it's slow and steady. I spent a long time natural. And during that time, I competed twice, both times qualifying for a national level, but first time was in COVID. Not my best look, but my first look, and I was happy with it. I won the heavyweight class in bodybuilding. Didn't place where I wanted to in the classic, but the judges' feedback was that I was, built for classic. Just because it was my second showing of the day, it just wasn't my best showing. I'd spilled over by that point. And then through that process of all that learning and going through a prep, I really started to understand the structure. But because I was coached by somebody else who took me through that prep, so just going back to the start of that, I had a coach that I started with just before that prep, and he took me through a prep and a little bit of an off season too. And it was a bit frustrating for me from a competitor viewpoint because he was in charge of everything that was going on, right? And I'm someone who likes to know what's going on, and it's not his fault. He didn't not educate me, but I needed to know for myself what was going on. So when it came to understanding structure, I had to put myself through a prep, which is the most recent one I did. And there's 4 years between these two competitions, and my second look was definitely far superior to my first look. But the amount of education and learning that I had to go through to get to a stage where I could put myself through a prep, even going through the prep and coaching myself through that was a massive learning curve. And that's why I coach people now, because I've learned so much in the last 10 years between going through those preps and being coached by somebody else who obviously taught me a lot as well, spending thousands of dollars on education, through online courses like J3 University, obviously being absolutely in love with bodybuilding. I just want people to be able to get to a point quicker where they don't have to spend 10 or 11 years going through the learning process, and they can get the specialized knowledge that they need to without having to look in all these different places. So that's really been my goal with trying to develop the compete method, which I basically realized that most people do train hard that want to compete, but they just don't know the systems. They don't understand it because it's quite deep. Like, the knowledge is hard to find. It's very specialized, and bodybuilding is quite niche. And I just wanted to give bodybuilders and other competitors a roadmap that I wish I had without having to spend so much time and effort and money learning. Basically a system that helps people go from where I was, which is somebody that knows quite a lot, and understands how the general art of bodybuilding works, to a next level competitor who, for one, understands what they need to do to manipulate their physique to give it the best appearance to stage, whether that be in an off-season, contest prep, post-show, pre-prep phase, whatever phase they're in, but understanding what those phases mean, which I have a video coming up on that very soon. I'll break down how to do a complete timeline of a prep for a bodybuilding show, and that doesn't just start with 14 weeks out, it starts in the off-season, but we'll go into that in that video. And that's everything inside the compete method. That's what we do at the compete method. We don't just take people through bodybuilding preps. We educate them on what they need to do during the off season, before the prep starts, during the prep, after the show's done, and giving them that timeline, that roadmap, and working with them show after show after show, learning the body each time. And that's my goal with the compete method and through my coaching. But that being said, coaching only works if both sides show up. So I should never have to work harder than the athlete for their goals. And if I was being coached by somebody else, I wouldn't want them to work harder than I'm working for what I'm trying to achieve. But if you bring your best, then I can bring my best, and together I'm sure we'll build something incredible. If you're ready to take your physique seriously, with all that being said, and that's my story, if you do want to get involved in the compete method, go in the description, book a call, we'll talk about where you're at and where you want to go and if we can help you. And if we can, we'll lay out a timeline for you, because that's what you need. You need structure and a timeline. You've got to stop guessing. And that's essentially what the compete method is going to do. It's going to take the guesswork out of it so that you can not stress and bring your best physique to the stage and learn some things along the way.